They had fame, looks, and talent, but not much brains. These Golden Age stars made headlines for all the wrong reasons. Let's dive into Hollywood's most clueless icons. Johnny Weissmuller. Johnny Weissmuller may have been the perfect Tarzan on screen, muscular, wild, and heroic, but off-screen, he was often seen as more brawn than brains. A 5-time Olympic gold medalist in swimming, his athletic achievements were undeniable, but his common sense? Not so much. Studio insiders often joked that Weissmuller actually believed he was Tarzan. He would mimic jungle calls at inappropriate moments and reportedly once climbed a tree during a press event just to feel the part. Despite being handed scripts, he often struggled with simple lines and relied heavily on one-liners and grunts. When asked in an interview about world affairs, he famously responded, "Me Tarzan, you explain." Though beloved by fans, many directors avoided giving him complex roles, fearing he wouldn't grasp them. He lived large, partied hard, and often made headlines for his bizarre antics rather than his acting chops. Johnny Weissmuller was a legend, but one who proved that muscles and fame didn't always come with mental sharpness. Jayne Mansfield. Jayne Mansfield was Hollywood's original blonde bombshell, but behind the platinum curls and plunging necklines was a woman often dismissed as all looks and no brains. She leaned hard into her dumb blonde persona, giggling her way through interviews and playing up the airhead routine. But the twist? Jayne was actually highly intelligent, fluent in 5 languages and reportedly had a 163 IQ. Still, she chose to bury her brilliance beneath her curves, once saying, "They don't pay me to be smart." Yet even her real-life decisions often reinforced the image she projected. From bizarre publicity stunts, like walking a pink poodle on Sunset Boulevard, to outrageous wardrobe malfunctions she accidentally staged, Jayne constantly towed the line between clever and clueless. She surrounded herself with scandal, feuded with studios, and took roles that tanked her credibility. While some argue she played dumb on purpose, many saw her behavior as careless and erratic. Whether she was truly dim or just too deep in character, one thing's for sure, Jayne Mansfield became a cautionary tale of beauty over brains in Hollywood. Wallace Beery. Wallace Beery was a big name in Golden Age Hollywood, known for his gruff charm and tough guy roles. But behind the scenes, he had a reputation that was less than flattering. Many co-stars and directors found Beery difficult to work with, not because he was a diva, but because he just didn't seem to get it. He often misunderstood scripts, missed cues, and reportedly had to be walked through even the simplest emotional scenes. Some joked that his best acting came from not acting at all, he just was that clueless. Beery also had a reputation for being self-absorbed and unaware of the people around him, often stealing scenes without realizing it, or maybe without understanding why that was a problem. He famously bragged about things that made no sense, once claiming he could act better without learning lines. Despite his Oscar win, many in Hollywood quietly questioned whether Beery's success was due more to timing and typecasting than actual talent. In the end, he was a star whose brute force outweighed his brainpower, on and off the screen. George Raft. George Raft had the looks, the charm, and the perfect gangster swagger that made him a natural fit for Hollywood's crime flicks. But when it came to career choices, Raft's instincts were famously terrible, so bad, in fact, that they became legendary. He turned down role after role that would have made him a Hollywood icon. Humphrey Bogart only became a star because Raft kept rejecting scripts like Casablanca, The Maltese Falcon, and High Sierra. Why? He claimed he didn't want to play bad guys, despite being known for playing bad guys. Off-screen, Raft surrounded himself with real-life mobsters, often blurring the line between film and reality in the most dangerous ways. Studios were nervous about his underworld connections, and many questioned if he even understood the long-term impact of his choices. It wasn't that Raft lacked intelligence completely, it's just that his decisions screamed poor judgment over and over again. In the end, George Raft didn't fade because of talent, he faded because he simply didn't know how to play the game. Dumb luck? More like dumb choices. Buster Crabbe. Buster Crabbe was the all-American hero, Olympic gold medalist, square-jawed, and the face of classic serials like Flash Gordon and Buck Rogers. But behind the chiseled looks and action-packed roles, Crabbe wasn't exactly known for sharp thinking. He often took roles based purely on physicality, never questioning scripts or storylines, no matter how ridiculous. Industry insiders claimed he rarely read the full script before shooting and just winged it with his lines. When asked about deeper meanings in his roles, his responses were often hilariously off-base or just plain blank. He leaned heavily on his athletic background, assuming charisma and muscles were enough to carry him through Hollywood, which, to be fair, worked for a while. But as the industry evolved and demanded more depth, Crabbe never adapted. He even passed up several smarter financial opportunities simply because he didn't understand contracts or long-term deals. Buster was a classic case of charm over intellect, a man who looked every bit the hero but lacked the foresight and savvy to truly last in a changing Hollywood. Esther Williams. Esther Williams made a splash in Hollywood, literally. Known as the $1 Million Mermaid, she starred in a string of water-themed musicals that showcased her Olympic-level swimming skills far more than her acting range. While she dazzled in synchronized swimming routines, her performances on dry land often left critics unimpressed. Williams had a habit of accepting roles that required minimal acting, simply because they kept her in the water. Directors reportedly found her frustrating to work with when it came to complex dialogue or emotional scenes, describing her as aloof or just not mentally present. She once claimed she didn't really understand most of her scripts but followed direction like choreography. Off-screen, she struggled with basic business decisions, trusting shady agents and losing out on financial opportunities due to poor judgment. Though graceful in the pool, Esther often floundered in real-life choices. Hollywood adored her beauty and aquatic talent, but behind the glamorous smile was a woman who floated more than she thought things through, making her a true poster girl for style over substance. Milton Berle. Milton Burley was known as Mr. Television, and for good reason. He was one of the most beloved comedic stars of the golden age of TV. But while Burley was brilliant at making people laugh, his off-screen behavior often raised eyebrows for all the wrong reasons. Famous for his quick wit, he wasn't exactly known for his quick thinking when it came to business or personal decisions. Burley had a habit of relying on his popularity and charm to get by, rather than carefully considering the consequences of his actions. His comedy sketches were full of one-liners and slapstick humor, but when it came to making major career decisions, Burley often stumbled. He famously burned bridges with producers, made questionable investments, and was known to make impulsive decisions that affected his career. For a man who could deliver a perfect punchline, he often missed the mark when it came to common sense. Milton Burley may have been a TV legend, but when it came to brains, he wasn't exactly in the same league as his comedic genius. Frank Fay. Frank Fay was a vaudeville performer and one of Broadway's early stars, but his time in Hollywood was marked by blunders that overshadowed his talent. Known for his sharp tongue and quick wit on stage, offstage, Fay's decisions were often baffling, making him one of the more frustrating figures in Hollywood. His career was marred by a notorious arrogance and a belief that his stage success would easily translate to film. However, he had little understanding of the movie-making process, and his performances were often considered stiff and unrelatable. Perhaps his most famous mistake was turning down the role of the original, The Wizard of Oz, a move that haunted him throughout his career. He struggled to adapt to the evolving film industry and would often alienate co-stars and directors with his temperamental behavior. Frank Fay seemed more focused on his personal image than on perfecting his craft. His public feuds and eccentric personality may have kept him in the tabloids, but they also cemented his place as one of Hollywood's less intelligent stars. Time may pass, but true legends never fade. These weren't just stars, they were dazzling dreams brought to life. Relive the glamour, the grace, and the golden era. Like the video, comment your favorite icon, and subscribe to Golden Age Icon, where vintage magic never dies.